This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everybody. We've talked about healing on this show before, actually many times. And it's the belief of many that we have lots to heal from. Traumas from our childhood, things that have presented themselves in life. They could be major things, they could be little things, but they are things that are preventing us from growing, preventing us from thriving. We are going to talk about one way to heal, one painting at a time, essentially. And it's about the artwork connects to the heart work. And she is a certified art therapist, among other things. And it's so great to have her back here. Barbara Robertson joins us on the program. How you doing today?
Very well. Thank you, Steve.
This is intriguing to know that just by creating some kind of artwork, some kind of, call it expression, because I think a lot of people, when you use the term art or painting, I can't draw. No, I can't do that, right?
Absolutely. Yes. There are a lot of people that have what in the art therapy field we refer to as art injuries, where maybe a teacher in grade school was really harsh in their reaction to you painting a sky yellow, for example, because to you, the sky yellow meant something important to you, and the teacher just couldn't see it and came down on you for not making it look real. Oh my gosh, that would discourage most people from wanting to pick up colors again. And it's surprising how common that is.
Well, funny you
Yeah.
should say that, because I would even interpret that as a trauma. Like, what if you're 7
Yes.
years old, you painted the
Yes.
yellow sky, mom or dad says, "Oh, you did a really great job, but we know the sky's not yellow. You know it's blue. You could do better than that." Right away, you have a block. I don't know if I should, talking about sky, I don't know. I don't know if I shared this with you, but I encountered this in 11th grade. Did I
Did you?
tell you this last time?
No, I didn't. I haven't heard this one.
Oh boy.
Curious.
So, and I wonder if this comment has moved me forward or pulled me back. 11th grade, always drew cartoons, wanted to be a cartoonist. I had my cartoons in the school newspaper. So I'm painting a farm scene, barn, wheatgrass leads your eye to the front door, rustic looking barn, fall scene, got the leaves on the trees. Couldn't do the sky. This wasn't coming out. I'm getting a little frustrated. This wasn't coming out the way I wanted it to.
Yeah.
Ms. Meyer, my art teacher, 11th grade, comes walking around. I said, "Ms. Meyer, it's not coming out the way I wanted to. Can you help me out with this guy?" She takes the brush and goes, comes out great. By the way, I still have the painting.
Wow.
And she looks at me and she says, "You know what you are?" And I said, "What?" She goes, "You are an underachiever."
Ouch. Oh my gosh.
Never forgot it. But I
Oh
wonder
gosh.
if it pushed me forward or pushed me back. But I will say this, a year later, I was voted class artist in high school. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we can't always tell, if we're using somebody's doubt towards us as
Right?
motivation or as discouragement. But I think the first place she went wrong was in touching your artwork.
Hmm.
That, in my perception, is a serious boundary violation.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because we don't get a lot of instruction around boundaries, healthy boundaries and unhealthy boundaries. But for her to have really been an art teacher, she might have said, try just swishing the brush loosely through the sky area instead of trying to paint it a solid color. See what that looks like. If you don't like it, you can always go over that with something else. Something to invite you to just stretch a little bit beyond your initial concept of what sky has to look like.
Hmm. Well,
And then, and then you discover and grow.
or she could have busted out the test canvas that, I just, practice on and then
Yes.
do it on my painting.
And do a demonstration on a
Yeah.
different surface. Yes.
I never thought about the boundaries. I don't recall saying, "Can you just do it for me?" I don't recall that. I don't think I would.
You probably didn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think that most kids would, especially at that age.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
I just wanted,
can you help
instruction.
me out? Doesn't necessarily mean, can you do it for me?
Isn't it amazing, Barbara, that so
Yeah,
many people who say, I'm not an artist, I can't, when they actually do something, many times it's amazing. Like, I'm like, where did that
absolutely.
come from?
Absolutely. I have seen that over and over and over again in clients. And in one area where the individuals that I was working with are particularly vulnerable, which is I would do a weekly art therapy group at a rehab center for women who have been trapped and snared in addiction. And here they are in recovery, and they've been through so much, whatever trauma likely drove them into addiction in the first place, trying to sustain life at the same time as needing a substance in order to feel like you could possibly, survive another day. And now trying to do without those sort of those things to lean on. And then here I come inviting them to be artists, and they're like, you've got to be out of your mind. I am not creative. I had one, and the women are really of all ages, from 18 to I had some in their 60s,
Hmm.
which bespeaks a long history of struggling with this terrible disease. And still they're coming around and going for it again. One said, no, I don't have a creative bone in my body. I'm not creative. I never will be. And often would just sit during my group. She didn't dare to make a mark on a paper. And I'm sure that she was imagining feeling deep shame for whatever showed up because it wasn't good enough. So many
Hmm.
of us have that sense that we absorb from our early life experience, I think, of in some way not being good enough. This
A
is
100%. And
that. Yeah,
I'll demonstrate that. A year after the teacher episode, I had my cartoons in a library, and the local paper did an article. Right in that office, right behind me, is the newspaper clipping from when I was 17.
awesome.
And what does it say? It says, in my words, quoted, I am a perfectionist.
Ah,
Yeah.
yes, that's
Yeah.
right. Yes, and perfectionism is absolutely at the bottom line an attempt to avoid shame.
Yeah. Yeah. And I let that go about 5 years ago, just to let you know the
Good.
perfectionism
Yes.
train. But yes,
Yeah,
and
but
there's
it
so many
takes a
re-
long time to be able to let it go because shame is one of the most aversive emotional experiences a person can suffer.
wow.
It's
Hmm.
it's very sticky, very difficult feeling because shame tells us we don't belong. We don't belong in the human community. We're not fit to be with at its worst.
Wow.
There is healthy shame, which helps us to really be socialized so that we can get along and be a member of the pack, which in human terms really would read support network so that we can have interactions with a community of people so that we're not just trying to forge ahead solo because that's nearly impossible. We're mammals, we don't do that. Yeah, but going back to this woman who was sure she wasn't creative, at one point I took out clothespins of the old kind that had two prongs that stick down over the cord that you can sort of pinch
So
the
they didn't have a spring on them. They were
not a
just
spring, no, just a little round head and then
gotcha.
two separated things. So if you turned it so you could see the split, they almost look like a little doll figure, a little round knob
Totally got it. I see the visual.
and
Yep.
legs. And so I got out ribbons and pipe cleaners and yarn and little bits of fabric and invited them to make a worry doll in the kind of style of Ecuadorian worry dolls, which are meant to tell your worries to before you go to sleep, tuck them under your pillow, ask them to hold the worries for you so you can release them and get a good night's sleep.
Wow.
So this middle-aged woman actually, maybe because it wasn't pen and paper, markers and paper, she went to town and made the most delightful little figure that had sparkles and satin and a kind of a cool big hairdo. And when it came time to share at the end of the group, she said, "This is a nightclub singer. She takes my worries and turns them into songs."
Hmm.
And I went, "Oh my gosh, that is awesome." So
Wow.
creativity is really, it's not so much about the outcome as it is about the process. She really invited herself to think about what would alleviate my worries. And really, I mean, if you think about the blues in America, that's what it's all about.
Wow.
Really expressing something deep and potentially painful, or at least moving, that has happened in life.
To me, that demonstrates what I've often heard. It's the intention. So here's a, magic marker I'm holding in my hand. I could say, this is the person I talk to when I'm having challenges. This is it right here. It's Bob. Here's Bob. And
Yeah.
if you put the intention into it, it can be.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
I mean, the power of the imagination to imbue objects with life. I mean, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Castaways with Tom Hanks.
I just saw it again for the first
Ah,
time in decades,
so you
3 weeks
remember the
ago.
volleyball
Oh,
Wilson?
oh yeah, with a blood handprint on it, and it was real.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. And he was bereft when he lost Wilson in the storm
yeah.
on the raft.
Almost lost his life trying to get his buddy Wilson.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
It's that powerful. So heart work for me is really where the work of therapy happens. It's going into, and I'm using the word heart, not in terms of cardiology, but in terms of a core or center of us that holds our kind of essence, our purest essence of self. That I think we just all come into life with a part of us that is continuously and constantly good inside. And no matter what the human suffers who's carrying this self is really indomitable. It's not injurable. There's a part of us that I really believe stays protected. Maybe it's connected directly to the divine. I'm not sure. Spiritual
mm.
beliefs can vary all over the place. Mine are not exactly specific, they're more kind of intuitive, but that's a sort of a sense that I have. And so we've been talking about the heart as the center of our emotional experience for more than 2,000 years. Aristotle had something to say about the heart being the center of our perfection and
Mm.
not getting caught up in what you think, but really paying attention to what the heart says. And there are all kinds of expressions in our language about that. Take heart, have a heart.
Yeah.
Do you have a cold heart? Oh, my heart sank. Oh, my heart is bursting with pride. All kinds of things that really are not about cardiology. They're not about the heartbeat and the circulation of our blood and oxygen through our system. They're about how we experience what we feel. And
Would you
so,
say that it is when we do an expression, call it art?
mhm.
Would you say it's one of the best forms of therapy, and we just don't even realize it?
I do believe so. I believe it
Mm.
absolutely has potential. And I would say really any nonverbal expression can do that. There are also fields of music therapy, dance therapy, drumming therapy, poetry therapy. And poetry is verbal expression, but it's not literal verbal expression. It's, metaphoric expression in poetry. So one thing is representing something else. And I mean, that's what all these things are. One thing representing something else. And
Mm.
in the act of drawing, we're actually awakening the part of our brain that holds our emotional remnants of past experience. And so they can feel invited to show up on the paper. And I had one wonderful example of that when I was working with children in a psychiatry unit in the hospital. So these were kids in crisis. This little guy was about 9 years old, had just come in, popped into my group, sat down, and I said, just draw whatever you feel like drawing. So the first thing on his page was a big smiley face with a tongue sticking out and little bits of spit dripping off the tongue, sort of
Mm,
like blowing a raspberry,
sure.
almost expressing like, I'm fine. I have no idea why I'm here, and to all of you. And then he turned the paper over and drew something else. And I kind of lost track of what he was drawing. So when I saw it at the end of the session, I was blown away. So on the left side of the paper, a big swirling pencil lines making a funnel cloud. So there's a big tornado. On the right side of the page, down at the very bottom, a little rectangle suggesting a house or a building or a structure of some kind.
Mm.
And then a tiny stick figure on top of the building sideways with one hand holding on to the top of that building for dear life.
Oh my gosh.
Quite a different story than I'm fine. I have no idea why I'm here. He was able to put down on that paper his truth. Oh my gosh, I'm about to get blown away.
How old?
9.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Mm.
Isn't that astonishing?
Very. Honestly, it brings back a memory when I met with a school psychologist. I guess I was, I don't know, 8, somewhere around there.
Hmm.
I still remember what I drew.
Really?
I did. Yeah. I had, challenges, separation anxiety,
Sure.
bullying, a lot of that in my childhood.
Yeah.
I was into army men at the time, and I drew an army man parachuting down. I don't
Okay.
know what the significance is or what I was thinking, but that's what came out, and I still remember it. I don't remember the rest of it, but
Yeah.
that is definitely
Yeah.
what it probably connected with what I was going through, but I haven't analyzed that.
Yeah. I mean, I try not to kind of make a guess about what kids are expressing unless I have other kind of collateral information, either by observing their process while they're drawing.
Sure,
But sometimes you can make a guess that can help you sort of direct your further explorations. And it might have been, oh, parachuting out. That's kind of a good escape route.
that's what I'm thinking.
Wouldn't you like to just be able to ditch the place you are right now and have a soft landing somewhere else?
Where you
Well,
want to be.
wouldn't we? Wouldn't we all?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to your point, it's well. Let's talk about that for a moment. When you, as a therapist, analyze what somebody has drawn or created,
Hmm.
how do you not go too deep? Or is it just theories? Maybe it's this, maybe it's that, whatever, could be anything.
Yeah, yeah. I tend to put a lot of faith in the art actually doing the work. So I don't have to name it, label it, identify it in order for the art maker to experience some benefit from putting their inner
Hmm.
experience into concrete form of some kind. I mean, I think it functions in many ways. It gets the feelings off your chest, so to speak. There's another kind of interesting heart-related
Mm,
metaphor
hmm.
for feelings.
What's going on when somebody creates something and maybe, for a therapy reason, if they're working with you, or somebody just wants to sit down. I'm going to grab a pen. I'm going to draw something. What is fundamentally psychologically going on?
What is going on is, in my estimation, what is going on is they are using art materials as instruments of love.
Hmm.
And I say that because to me, loving someone or something is a verb, it's an action, doing something to honor the fact that this person, this object, this experience matters. So when a person sits down to make marks, that they feel inspired to make, whether they know what the marks represent or whether they just are putting down something that they like. That's enough in itself to be able to say, I like yellow better than blue. I'm going to use yellow. That's autonomy in practice. It's making choices for yourself. And particularly as kids, we don't have a wide range of opportunities to do that. But even as adults, we're constrained by so many different factors to come in, spend an hour, and just decide what color do you want to put and where do you want to put it. That's activating our ability to say, this is meaningful to me.
Hmm.
So, what we're actually doing is honoring our own existence, honoring the uniqueness of ourselves by saying, I'm going to make a note of something that matters to me in this moment. And that's love. So, it's practicing self love in a very sort of obscure way, but it is accepting yourself where you are, with what you have, with what things feel like right now, today, in this second.
Barbara, when you see people do this, do they more often create something of positivity? Where am I going with this? I find when I just want to grab a pen and write something down, and
Mhm.
what am I going to draw? I don't know. It usually is a palm tree, a tropical
Ah,
field, and
sure.
it's where I would like to be.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
if that's a form of manifestation or escapism, but I'm wondering, we talked about that 9-year-old. Um, that was, there was some conflict within that came out on the page. Is
Sure.
is it more often that, or is it more often a escape, like a happy thing?
I wouldn't necessarily call a happy thing an escape, actually. It can be a lovely way to help regulate your nervous system, which may have been feeling agitated, feeling overworked, overstressed, overstimulated. And that beach scene invites your nervous system to step into a place where there are many calming sensory stimuli present. The
Mm.
sound of waves lapping at the shore, the sound of a breeze whistling lightly through those palm fronds, splashing water of people in the water, swimming, playing, laughing. All of those things would be messages to our nervous system that we are safe here now. And
Mm.
that's basically what everybody wants to know.
You said the S word, safe.
Safe.
Mm.
Yes.
It's everything.
Yes. Absolutely. Because when we're safe, oh man, we have access to all of our powers.
And
When,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
when you're
when we
not
stop,
safe, what's going on? That's fear.
yeah, you're in fight or flight. Your nervous system is ready to help you run away or gather your strength or, sort of collapse and disappear for a moment. But you don't have, I mean, your blood flow actually leaves the prefrontal cortex and goes into your limbs so that you can flee because you don't want to stop and think about the saber-toothed tiger too long or you're already lunch.
Mm.
So we lose access to the places in us that can help us create and respond spontaneously to whatever the needs of the moment are.
Isn't it interesting? We talk about the heart, but what's going on in the fear when there's fight or flight? The blood is going away from
Away
the
from the
heart
heart.
to the
Yes,
extremities to allow you instinctively or evolution in terms of evolution
in
to
terms of evolution,
so you can
sure.
run. You can go.
Yes.
I gotta go. Gotta get out of
Yeah.
here. Actually, we
Yeah.
do. We're out of time.
No, too bad. Too bad.
Wonderful
Really,
talking with you.
I'm enjoying it very much too.
You got a much more clearer picture of what's going on here with art therapy. And I would love to, next time we get together, Barbara, maybe talk about the process when you work with somebody, doesn't matter what age, or maybe it
Sure.
would depend, whether it's a child, whether it's an adult, but starting point is starting the conversation. How do we connect with you?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to do that.
How do we find you?
My website is Robertson, Robertson, Art Therapy, spelled out LLC.com. My email is B as in Barbara Robertson, no punctuation, .atr@gmail.com. You can reach me both ways.
I've had a lot of epiphanies talking with you, even in these two podcasts that we've done, how art has supported me and has been my therapy without me even knowing it.
That's really the awesome thing about it.
Right?
It's at everyone's fingertips, literally.
Mm. And you may even be doing things that you might not consider art, but they have a form of creativity. Even painting a wall.
Absolutely.
Even painting a wall. I'm
Yes.
telling you, you
Yeah,
want me, you wall painted, you want your house painted, I'll do it. I love it. To me, it's like an art project
yeah,
because you got to cut in, you want to make it tight, the color, the blending, and all of that. There's more to it than just slapping a roller on a wall, and it's therapeutic. I don't
I agree.
think we see it
I
that way.
agree. I
Mm,
agree. Yeah, and you can see where you've been. There's something about seeing where we've been that is
mm.
very heartening.
Didn't think of it that way either. Thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Great. See you next week.
You got it. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.